In a few months, Emporia is going to be offering a new version of its extremely popular electric vehicle charger, which happens to be my top pick for high-powered chargers in 2023. Now, the company sent me one of these units ahead of its launch so I could show it to the State of Charge community. So stick around and let's find out what's in the box. About 8 months ago, Ford pretty much rocked the electric vehicle charging industry by announcing they were going to transition to the connector that Tesla uses. Tesla called this connector the North American Charging Standard, or NACS for short, even though at the time only Tesla was using it. However, once Ford made the announcement that they would be transitioning starting in 2025 and use the Tesla connector, or the NACS connector, actually, it began the domino effect. And now pretty much all of the OEMs have announced that they're going to be transitioning. There are still a few holdouts, but they're all going to announce by 2025. The entire industry here in North America is going to be transitioning to the NACS connector. Now, that created an issue for some of the charging equipment suppliers because they all make chargers with the J1772 connector because all of the manufacturers, except for Tesla, uses that connector currently. So what happened was we started to hear some of the companies announce that they'd be making equipment with a NACS connector. Emporia was one of the first companies to come out and say, okay, we're going to start offering a charger with the NACS connector. We see that the industry is going to be transitioning, so we don't want to fall behind. We'll continue to offer it with the J1772 connector, but now we're going to also offer one with the NACS connector. That's actually what's in the box here. Even though the picture on the box shows a J1772 connector, and even the writing on the box says J1772 connector, that's because Emporia isn't really offering this unit yet. They're still in the final stages, I guess, of validation. But they put one in a box for me, and they only had boxes with the J1772 picture on it, and sent it to me so I could do a review here today. Now, this unit isn't available yet. It's going to be offered in early 2024, and it's currently early December 2023. So I think somewhere around the January or February point is when Emporia is going to be offering this. And they're going to sell it for the same price that they sell the J1772 version, which is $399. And one of the reasons why it's my top rated charger, because it's such a competitive price, much less expensive than many of its competing chargers, and it offers all of the same functionality that the chargers that cost $600, $700 do. And you know, when I do my reviews here, I weigh price heavily because I don't think people should overpay for something when there's competing products at a much lower price point. So what we're going to do here today is not a full review of this unit because it's the same unit except with a NACS connector on it. But we're going to have a little bit of review going on here, and then I'm going to also rely on some of the footage that I did when I did the full review of the Emporia about a year ago. So first, let's open the box and see what comes inside. All right, so we have the body of the unit. If you notice, this is in black. When I reviewed the Emporia with the J1772 connector last year, Emporia only offered this in white. Now they offer the units in black or white, and you can get either the J1772 version or the NACS version in black or white. Well, at least you will be able to get the NACS version in a couple of months when it's available in either color. I elected to get mine in black here, just because I wanted it different than the one I reviewed earlier. Okay, so we have the unit in black. It has a 24-inch cable with the NEMA 1450 plug. It comes as a plug-in unit, and if you use it as a plug-in unit, it can only deliver 40 amps to your car, which is 9.6 kilowatts. However, just like the J1772 version, the unit is capable of delivering 11.5 kilowatts and 48 amps. In order to do so, you need to remove this plug and directly hardwire the unit and put it on a 60 amp circuit. We're going to talk about that a little later. Okay, it has a 24-foot cable with the NACS connector on it. I notice it says Voltex. I guess that's the supplier. It looks just like a Tesla connector. It also has the button here that you depress and opens the Tesla charge port automatically. It's going to be interesting when the other brands use the NACS connector, if they also integrate an automatic opening and closing charge port door like Tesla does. They will be able to do that because the connector has that operability, which the J1772 doesn't. So I think the smart OEMs are going to incorporate that. Okay, I also noticed that the cable is very thin. It's the same thickness as the Tesla cable that they use for their wall connector, and the universal wall connector, same thing. So I suppose Emporia is probably sourcing this cable and connector from one of Tesla's suppliers, because it seems to be the same cable, and honestly, connector looks just about identical, except it doesn't say Tesla on it, it says Voltex. Okay, also we have the connector holster, which incorporates on the front of the unit like this. Now, this is one of the aspects of the Emporia that I was not happy with. It was one of the few things that I was very critical of Emporia on when I did the review. I think it's a terrible connector holster. I don't like when holsters hold the connector upwards like this. When this is mounted to the front of the charger, you hang this like this. So now you have the top of the connector where the pins are exposed to the elements. Very poor design. I actually spoke with Emporia about this. One of the things they're going to change for their version 2 of this, whenever that's available, not anytime soon, but it is something that they're going to connect. Another thing that I noticed that's pretty funny, this won't work with the NACS connector. Look, it won't hold the connector. I guess that's one of the things that I have to deal with, being somebody who gets the version before it's available to the public. I'm sure when this launches to the public and you buy it, this connector holster is going to be smaller, and it's going to be able to hold the NACS connector. It can't currently, so pretty funny. In any event, they have that, and then we have 8 screws and, oops, dropped them. 8 screws and 8 drywall anchors, as well as a little Allen key. You need the Allen key to open up the back of the unit. We'll go into that later again. And you'd only really want to do that if you were going to directly hardwire the unit, which we'll go over in a little bit. So you've got 8 screws, 8 drywall anchors. I think you only need 7 of them. They give you an extra one. And also the installation and usage guide here, which explains how to install it, how to use it, and it even tells you a little bit about some of the other things you can get from Emporia, which is really cool to pair with this unit. Emporia has a whole host of energy monitoring devices, including this unit here that's called their View 2, where you pair this with your home electric service, and you could monitor all of your home electric use, including your charger, which is really, really a good feature to have. It's one of the reasons why I like Emporia. This just fits into Emporia's whole ecosystem of energy management devices. It's not just a standalone charger, which I think is really cool. Okay, so before we jump into the review, let's take a look at the Emporia 48 amp NACS chargers key features. When this does go on sale in a couple of months, it's going to sell for the same $399 as the J1772 version has. The dimensions of the unit are 12.5 inches by 9 inches by 3.4 inches. Out of the box, it comes with the NEMA 1450 plug, which can deliver 40 amps. That's 9.6 kilowatts to your electric vehicle. But it can deliver 48 amps, which is 11.5 kilowatts when you remove the plug and directly hardwire it. It has a 24-foot cable. It has the NACS connector. It has a NEMA 4 enclosure, which makes it very good for outdoor installations. It has good weatherproof rating. The operating temperature is 122 degrees Fahrenheit to negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a Wi-Fi connected smart charger. It's UL listed, Energy Star rated, comes with a 3-year warranty, and it's made in India. This video, as well as all of the videos here on State of Charge, is sponsored by Qmerit. Once I've helped you decide which electric vehicle charger you're going to buy, then follow the link in the description of my videos and have Qmerit install it. First up, let's talk about how you mount the Emporia on the wall. The mounting bracket comes attached to the unit from the factory. There's 4 screws, 2 on the bottom and 2 on the top side, that have to be removed. Then you'll take the bracket off, then mount it on the wall. So I'm going to remove those now. Okay, 4 screws removed. Now this lifts off. Now you're going to mount this bracket on the wall like this. Now you do have 1 screw down here, 1 in the middle, and 2 here. But the screw down here, you'll install the bracket on if you want to use this bracket. Now obviously this bracket won't work with the NACS adapter, but as I said, I'm sure Emporia is going to ship the connector holster that the NACS connector will actually holster it. So you want to put this on like this if you want to use the holster, and then you screw right through there. Now you can use this separately. If you don't want the connector holster integrated into the unit, you can just mount this on the wall somewhere. And in that case, there's 4 holes that you would use to mount this. I suppose that's why they give you the 8 screws. Now I'm getting smart here, because if you were going to mount this separately, you could use 4 screws to mount this and then 4 screws to mount the bracket. So there isn't one extra. I think for most people there will, because most people are going to attach this to the bracket like this. It kind of locks in, and then you use the 1 screw down here, 1 hole that goes right through the connector holster and the mounting bracket. So you're going to put this on the wall like this, and then mount the unit with the 4 screws that are there. So I'm going to do that now. Mount this on the wall, and let's take a look at it once it's up on the wall. Okay, well, I've got it all mounted on the wall. And again, as I said, the connector holster, that's not going to work. Unlike the J1772 version, which I put up on the wall also, this is how the connector holster works. And if you remember, if you watched my initial video, this is one of the things I hated about the unit, not only because it holds it so that the pins are facing up. Now it does have this rubber cap, but most people don't put this on every time they holster their connector. It's usually left dangling. And in that case, the top of the connector is pointing upwards, and dust and dirt and even moisture can get into the pins. It's a very poor design, but that's not the only reason. Once you holster it like this, you would think you would grab the connector and then take it off, but you can't. You can't get it off. The only way to take this connector off is if you grab it from the top and lift it up and slide it off. So maybe harping on it, but that is about as poor a connector holster as you can imagine. And I know Emporia is going to be working on making a better one in the future. I recommended doing a remote connector holster. If you get the Emporia, you can buy them on Amazon. You just mount them on the wall and you stick the connector directly into it. This is my top rated unit. I definitely recommend my followers get this if they're interested in electric vehicle charging equipment. But if you do, I also recommend getting a remote connector holster. I'm interested to see what they do with the NACS adapter connector, because the NACS connector is all the same width. So it's going to slide through, unlike the J1772, where this part is thinner than the top. It can hang on the top. So I'm interested in seeing how they deal with that. Maybe they'll just make a completely different type of a connector holster. I hope it mounts down, or I don't know, we'll see. It'll be interesting when this comes to market. I'll probably add a little correction to this video, or not a correction, just an update to the video to explain how they dealt with the connector holster. Another thing that I want to point out is the cable. As I mentioned earlier, it seems like it's the same cable that Tesla uses for their wall connector. it appears to be. The thickness is the same, and I measured it to be 14.3 millimeter. So it almost seems like they source it from the same source as Tesla. And the connectors, upon close inspection, are exactly the same. So either it's a clone of the Tesla connector or possibly I said Voltex before, it's Volex is possibly one of Tesla's suppliers. So it's the exact same connector. But I mean, everything about it, I inspected it, looks exactly like, even inside the pins. So I think this is like a genuine Tesla connector. It just doesn't have the Tesla branding on it. It really is, everything about it's exactly the same. And the cable seems like it's exactly the same. We'll see when we do the cold weather test if it performs the same as the Tesla cable did. That will probably, if it does, I'm going to pretty much be convinced that it's the same product, just Emporia got the company that Tesla uses to source them the cable and connector. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is open up the box and show you what you would do if you wanted to hardwire this to get the full 48 amps. As I said before, if you use this plug in a NEMA 1450, it's you have to set it to only deliver 40 amps. But if you're going to hardwire it, you can get the full power, the full 48 amps. It's a pretty easy swap, but you have to open up the body of the unit to do so. So let's take a look at how you do that now. All right, so I removed the 4 screws that hold the unit to the mounting plate on the wall. Next up, you use the provided Allen key to remove the 8 screws on the back of the unit. There's 4 here on the top and 4 on the bottom, and that allows you to remove the front plate. So let me remove those now, then I'll put it back on the wall so we can get a better view of what it looks like inside. All right, so I removed those 8 screws. You see them down here, mounted the unit back up on the wall. Now let's open up the cover. But first, what I need to do is disconnect this wiring harness that feeds the LED lights on the front because I don't want it dangling here while I'm showing you the unit. Okay, unplug that. Okay, so here's what it looks like inside. Pretty simple. On this side here is the wires for the cable that leads to the NACS connector. This side here is where the NEMA 1450 plug is attached. So basically these wires have to be removed, and that's where you directly hardwire. You come into the same opening here as the NEMA 1450. It may seem like a simple operation, but I urge you to get a qualified licensed electrician to do this. They know all the local codes. They know what the torque rating needs to be for all of the wiring. They're going to use the right type of wire. Hopefully you need to get somebody that knows electric vehicle charging equipment. You don't want to use aluminum. Here you want to make sure it's copper. That's part of the reason why I've partnered with Q-Merit, who actually is the recommended installer for Emporia charging equipment. They know all the local codes. They know all best practices. They know how to torque all the connections to the exact manufacturer specs. And quite honestly, if it costs you an extra $100 or $2 to have it done right, you know that you can sleep well at night while your EV is charging and you're not going to have a problem. It's well worth paying a little bit more to get it done right when you're dealing with a lot of power, particularly at times when you're not really able to react to an issue, like when you're sleeping. Many people charge at night when you're sleeping. All right, well, this is how it looks. If you want to deliver the full 48 amps to your EV, you're going to want to have this removed and directly hardwire it on a 60 amp circuit, and then you can deliver the maximum power that the Emporia is rated to deliver. Next up, we're going to do our extreme heat test. I have this heat lamp on the Emporia. I'm going to bake it for 2 hours. Well, I'm going to wait until I get the surface temperature of the unit up to about 115 to 120 degrees, and then hold it at that temperature for 2 hours. After the unit's been baking for 2 hours at about 120 degrees Fahrenheit, I'll plug in my Rivian R1S. Now I'll need to use a Tesla to J1772 adapter, but that won't affect the test at all. And I'm going to pull the maximum power that I can with the NEMA 1450 plug, which is going to be 9.6 kilowatts. This unit isn't hardwired, so I can't deliver the full 11.5. but I'll pull the 9+ kilowatts for 2 hours and see if the Emporia derates or shuts off. So now let's let this guy cook for a little while. I'll plug her in. We'll see how it performs in the extreme heat test. So I charged my Rivian R1S for a full 2 hours, and the Emporia did just fine. It delivered the full power to the vehicle, the full 9.6 kilowatts that I can pull from a NEMA 1450 outlet for 2 hours without any derating. So it passed our extreme heat test without an issue. I also did the automatic restart test, and in that test, I plug in one of my vehicles, turn off my circuit breaker. Well, let the vehicle start charging. Then I turn off my circuit breaker to simulate a power outage. I wait a minute, turn it back on, and I want to make sure that the charger will re-engage the vehicle and start charging. I found that some of the units don't do that. They hold in a fault pattern. So you wake up in the morning and your vehicle's not charged. Let's say if you just have a temporary power outage for a minute, that's enough to shut the charger off and it doesn't re-engage the vehicle. But the Emporia passed as the initial one did. I tested that one with the J1772 Emporia when I did my review last year, and all the electronics is the same. So I was really expecting it to pass, and it did. It re-engaged the vehicle, started charging it almost immediately. So that's a pass on both the extreme heat test and the automatic restart tests. Emporia's chargers, both the J1772 equipped unit and the NACS unit that we're reviewing here today, are Wi-Fi connected smart chargers. And through the Emporia app, you can do things like set schedules, so you can take advantage of lower cost off-peak electricity rates. You can also view all your past charging history, which is pretty good because you really can see exactly how much power is going into the car and keep records of that. Some people really like to know detailed records of how much energy they're putting into their EV and what it costs to drive it. You know, with gas, you know exactly what it costs, but sometimes with EVs, you really don't know exactly what you're paying. But if you have an app that keeps detailed records like the Emporia, you get that information. Now, I did a full, I guess, not a review, but I showed people how to pair the charger with the app in my previous Emporia video. I'm going to go and use that clip. There's no reason for me to do that whole thing over again because it's the same setup. Now, the app has been updated since my last video, but basically the setup is the same. It just looks a little bit differently. So I'm going to use the footage from my previous video here, just so I don't have to go through that whole process again. So let's take a look at how you set up the Emporia app and pair it with your charger. The first thing you need to do is download the Emporia app. Then you need to pair it with your charger. Emporia uses this app for a number of other home energy devices, so you need to select the EV charger option. It then asks you if you need help installing the unit. We've already done that, so I selected go directly to setup. From there, you need to grant the app access and give it a couple of seconds to find your charger's Bluetooth signal. Once it appears, simply click on it and it will begin to connect to the device. It will then ask you for permission to know your location, and you can choose whether or not to give them your precise location or just a general location. You'll then see your Wi-Fi network listed and you have to enter your password. The app will then connect you to the Emporia cloud. You can then name the charger if you'd like and enter the type of EV that you drive. You can see at the bottom, it defaults to a 50 amp circuit for 40 amp continuous power delivery. That's where you would need to change the power output if you wanted the unit to deliver less power or if you hardwired it and want it to deliver the full 48 amps. The app also reminds you that the circuit that the charger is on needs to be rated at 125% of the maximum power you'll be charging at. That's why a 50 amp NEMA 1450 outlet is only allowed to deliver 40 amps to the vehicle. If you have an electrician hardwire the unit, then it needs to be on a 60 amp circuit to deliver 48 continuous amps. When you're all done, the app will check for any firmware updates and you're ready to charge your EV. Next up, let's do our cold weather testing with the Emporia. I put the unit in this freezer 24 hours ago. This is a commercial freezer that gets down well below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. I cold soak the units, and then I see how well the cable performs. I make sure that I can plug in an electric vehicle when the unit has been cold soaked and it'll still deliver power. And I also do the connector drop test to see if the connector holds up to being dropped a few times. So first, let's see how cold it is in there. Negative 12 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's pretty cold. It's been in there 24 hours. Let's see how well the Emporia performs. Okay. All right, let me put this thing here like that. There we go. All right. So, first impressions are it's very stiff, but since it's only 14 millimeters thick, you can easily manipulate it. It's performing fine. I mean, I'm not going to give this an excellent score, but it'll get an extra point for good performance in cold weather. This will be easy to manipulate, even if you park your car outside and it's overnight, and it's very cold, you go to plug the vehicle in or unplug the vehicle, and then you need to wrap it up over the cable holder. You can see it's not really fighting me too much and is willing to go back into these larger loops. Let me just twist it the right way. And you see you could do this with it. So when the cables are really stiff, I really fight to do that. This is really easy and floppy, so that's a good result. Okay, next up, and a pass on the cable deep freeze test. It'll get an extra point on the charge rater. Next up, while the connector is nice and cold, you can see there's some frost developing on the outside of it. I'll drop it 5 times. And this is a hard concrete floor here, so. Ooh, right on the edge that time. Okay. Wipe off some of the frost. No problem. I wasn't expecting there to be any issue because honestly, I really studied this closely against the Tesla connector. I think it's the same connector. I think that this Volex is the manufacturer for Tesla, at least one of their manufacturers for their connector. It's a high quality connector. It's made really well. You could beat the heck out of this thing and it won't break. So I wasn't expecting it to break. I think the cable's the same as Tesla's cable also because again, I've really studied them. I'm pretty sure Emporia is sourcing these from one of Tesla's vendors. Tesla probably has multiple vendors for their connectors and cables, but I think this is a legit Tesla cable and connector. One other thing I found out that I don't think anybody else has been told yet this. I spoke to Emporia about the cable and the connector, and obviously they have NDAs with sourcing products, so they can't say for sure that they got it from a Tesla supplier. But what Sean McLaughlin, the CEO of Emporia, told me is that they're going to be transitioning to using this cable for all of their chargers, including the J1772 equipped Emporias, and currently has a pretty thick cable. So I think that's a nice improvement. Now, it's not going to happen immediately. They need to sell out of the inventory they have with their cable, so it's probably not going to be for 4 or 5, maybe 6 months before their J1772 Emporia chargers start shipping with these cables. But it's a good decision on Emporia's part, one that I think more EVSE manufacturers should do. You could see all the cables I have here in the State of Charge garage. On the chargers, some of them are so thick and cumbersome and perform so poorly in cold weather that it might be something that you don't really think about when you first buy a charger and you say, oh, well, oh, great, it has 24-foot cable. Then you don't think about how thick that cable is, and you have to use it every day to unplug and plug in if it's outside in cold weather. The usability is important. So I love these thin cables. And you might wonder and say, well, the thicker cables are better. You know, they have more copper, they'll be better. This cable meets UL certification. It has 2 8-gauge wires inside for the power and 1 10-gauge wire for the ground, and it's rated to 90 degrees Celsius. So this is rated to deliver 48 amps continuous power. It's fine, and I've never heard of any Tesla owner having a problem with this cable on their Tesla wall connectors or overheating or so forth. They get warm, like all cables do when you're using consistent power draw for many hours, but it's a fine cable, and I'm glad Emporia is upgrading and is going to use it on their products. Okay, one last test we're going to do. I'm going to plug it in now. And I'm going to plug in my Chevy Bolt EV. Let's see if she lights up. Okay, blinking green. Looks like we're good to go. I have an adapter over here next to the vehicle. I'm going to plug in my Tesla to J1772 adapter, then plug in the Bolt EV, make sure it charges even when the body of this unit, the innards, I'm sure they're still below zero, even though it's been out of the freezer for a couple of minutes. Let's check this out. Okay, we got that beep on the Chevy Bolt. The Emporia's power light is slowly flashing blue. It's not like a blink. It almost pulses blue over here, so that means it's sending power to the unit. So it passed all of our cold weather testing, the cable deep freeze test, connector drop test, and also the fact that it'll deliver power even though the unit is well below zero. And I expected it to, because the unit is rated for negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit performance. We didn't get that quite that cold. As you saw in the test, we got somewhere around negative 14, negative 15 degrees. Actually, it was negative 12 when I pulled it out, but I checked on the unit, and a few hours ago, it was actually negative 14 degrees when I checked. So it's been cold soaking in that for 24 hours. The unit still delivers power, so that's a pass on our cold weather testing. Another thing that I really like about the Emporia charger isn't even the charger itself. It's Emporia's ecosystem of smart home monitoring. And with their View 2 system, you could monitor your whole home's electricity use. And it allows you to save money on your electricity use. If you really know what everything is pulling, it allows you to change some things around and save some money. And it's actually a really good system. I recommend checking it out if you're interested in home energy monitoring. And you also can pair it with your Emporia charger if you have a home solar array, and set it so that your EV will only charge from excess solar generation that your home doesn't need for other electrical use. It'll take what's left over and charge your EV. So you can truly charge your EV from 100% renewable solar energy if you have a solar system, the Emporia charger, and the View 2 energy monitoring system paired together. You could have a solar charged car. I think it's pretty cool to be able to do that. And there's not a lot of systems out there today that allow you to do that. It's part of the reason why I really like the direction that Emporia is going in general, not just with their charging. The whole ecosystem of home energy monitoring system is actually pretty cutting edge stuff. And it's part of the reason why I like this charger. It makes me like the charger even more because of the other things that you can do with it. And now let's take a look at my hits and misses. First up, let's do the hits. At $399, it's virtually half the cost of some of its competitors, and they don't offer any more features than the Emporia does. It's a 48 amp unit, so it delivers a lot of power. It's pretty much the highest power electric vehicle charging equipment you're going to get, unless you jump up to an 80 amp charger, which most electric vehicles can't take advantage of. There's only a few EVs on the market that can charge at 80 amps. Okay, and also the Emporia ecosystem. One of the things I love about Emporia chargers is you can pair them with the View 2. You could do all of your energy management. You could save money on your electricity bill. You can pair it with your solar array and only charge your EV when you have excess solar generation. So Emporia does a really good job of integrating this charger into its ecosystem of energy management devices. Okay, for the misses, it doesn't power share. This unit should power share with everything else it offers, and it offers so many features. It's a shame that you can't use the Emporia to charge two EVs at once with two different chargers and share one circuit. So think that's something we're going to see down the line with Emporia, but unfortunately it can't do it right now, and some of its competitors can. It's not Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant compatible. And I know this is something that probably won't affect most people, but some people have these smart homes and really love to control everything through their devices. You can't do that with the Emporia. It doesn't pair with those systems. And the last thing is the poor connector holster. And I've talked about that a few times in this review. Since then, I have found out that Emporia is going to ship this unit with a remote connector holster, one that you just install on the wall, so it won't be tethered to the device as the connector holster is that you saw in this review. I haven't seen what they're going to use yet, but Emporia tells me that it's going to be a better solution, but until I can see it and use it, I really can't give them credit for it. So I'm going to keep this poor connector holster on the Misses because it was on my Misses when I reviewed the J1772 version. All right, well, that's pretty much it for the review here today. The only thing that's left is our ratings. And for that, we're going to go to the charger rater first. But I want to point one thing out. The scoring for this unit is going to be a little bit different than the scoring for the J1772 Emporia. And even though they're the same unit, basically, the scoring is a little bit differently. That's because I've slightly changed the scoring methodology on the charger rater over the last year and a half since I did the Emporia J1772 review. And I added a test, the extreme heat test. That wasn't included when I did the first Emporia review. And that's why the score is slightly different. I also adjusted the points you get for the cost of the unit because in the last couple of years, prices have gone up across the board for most charging equipment. Supply chain issues, everything's gone up. So I changed the way the pricing scoring works, and that's going to affect the final score for this unit. It's going to score a little bit higher than the previous Emporia review on our charger rater, at least. My personal score, that's a different story, which we'll get into after we do the charger rater. So let's take a look at the charger rater now. Okay, let's start off in the cost and value category. For cost, it gets 3 points. For value, it gets 2 points because it is an excellent value at $399. Everything that this unit packs in for under $400, it's a fantastic value in my opinion. So it's going to finish up the cost and value category with 20 points. For power and weatherproofing, gets 2 points for the charging power output because it can deliver 48 amps. 1 point for adjustable power because it can adjust the power output within the app. You can't do it inside the unit with a dip switch as some units can. So this gets 1 point for that. For the extreme heat test, it passed, so it gets a point. Weatherproof rating, it is a NEMA 4 rated unit, so it gets 2 points. It is Energy Star rated and it passed the automatic restart test. Finishes up power and weatherproofing with 23 points. Great score there. For construction and durability, it's going to lose a point for connector and holster. Now, I have no problem with the connector, but the connector holster doesn't currently work. Now, I know Emporia has said they're going to have a remote connector holster shipped with this unit, but I can't give them credit for something I haven't seen and used, so I'm going to default to the existing setup that they have, which is poor, and they're going to lose a point for that in the charger rater. Cable length, it gets 2 points because it's 24 feet long. For cable pliability, it's going to get a point there. It was a good cable in the cold weather test. For robust construction, no points there because it's average construction. There's nothing wrong with it. Removability, no extra points. Doesn't have a safety lock that allows you to quickly release it from the wall. Ease of installation, no points because it's a simple installation. Finishes up construction and durability with 17 points. For smart and non-smart, gets 2 points because it is a smart charger. It does not get any points for power sharing because it cannot power share. It's one of the things I don't like about this unit. It doesn't power share amongst units. It is not Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant compatible, no points there. It does give you extensive charging data, so you get a point there. It's not an OCPP compliant unit, so it's not going to be used in utility demand response programs, no point there. Finishes up the smart and non-smart category with 18 points. Safety certified and warranty, no points for safety certified. It is UL certified, but you don't get any bonus points for that. And it has a 3-year warranty. You get 1 point for every year warranty, so it gets 3 points there. It finishes up safety certified and warranty with 18 points. And that gives the Emporia with the North American Charging Standard connector, a grand total of 96 points on the Charger Rater, an excellent score. And when we convert that to a 5-star rating, it gets 4.8 stars out of 5. I then average it in with my personal score, and I'm going to give the Emporia with the North American Charging Standard the same score that I gave the Emporia with the J1772, because it's basically the same unit, 4.55 stars out of 5. If it was able to power share, and if it was Amazon, Alexa, and Google Assistant capable, this probably would have been 4.8 stars out of my personal score. So I'm going to average my personal score with the Charger Rater, and we come up with 4.675 stars out of 5. Fantastic score for a very good charger. Now, do you need a charger with the North American Charging Standard connector on it, or should you get one with J1772? I really can't tell you which way to go on this. Obviously, if you own a Tesla and you don't want to buy Tesla's products, this would be the way to go because it has the NACS connector already attached to it. You don't have to worry about any type of adapter. But let's say you're thinking about getting an EV in a couple of years, a new one. You have one now that has J1772, but you're going to get a new EV in 2025, 2026. By then, most of the new vehicles hitting the market are going to have North American Charging Standard. It's tough for me to tell you which way to go. I do love Tesla's solution with the universal wall connector, where you can use it as a North American Charging Standard connector, or you pull it out and it also has the J1772. That's a really slick, elegant solution, but you know, it's not one size fits all. Not everybody wants that unit. And if you're considering on non-Tesla product, the Emporia, both J1772 and NACS, are at the top of my list. So should you go for the J1772 or the NACS? If you're certain that you're going to be getting a new EV in the next couple of years that's going to have the NACS connector on it, it might be better to get this now and then just use a adapter in the meantime until you get the new car. And then you don't need to use an adapter later. If you get the J1772 now, you don't need to use an adapter. But in a couple of years, when you get that new EV that has the NACS port, you're going to be stuck using an adapter from then on. So that's going to be a personal decision. I don't want to tell you which way to go, but we have options now. And with adapters, you'll be able to use either one. But if you want a non-Tesla charger with NACS connector, this might be the way to go. I love Emporia products. They're priced super aggressively. You can't find another charger on the market for this price, at this price point, that does everything that this does. So it's one of the reasons why it was my top pick for 2023 high-powered chargers. So, and I'll be doing the 2024 soon. We'll have to see how that fares. So that's it for the review here today. I hope you learned a little bit about this product. If you do want to buy it, I'm going to have a link in the description of this video to the Emporia website, because as of the posting of this video, you can't buy this yet, but you should be able to somewhere, and I think a couple of months, about 3 months, this is going to be available. Listen, if this is your first time here at State of Charge, please click that subscribe button, give me a like on this video, maybe ring that notification bell, all that good stuff so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and electric vehicle charging equipment reviews here on State of Charge.